I would like to hope this is an AI program, as if not, then damn. This is so packed with insanely childish and idealistic ideals, with plenty of myths, and this is what I want the world to be BS. If you're taking anything from this, well, best of luck.
Beep boop beep boop 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 beep.
I decided that the most important thing I could do for myself is rip the Band-Aid off and go ahead and do the 8 types of people in reference to white, black, and other cultures. I know it is so easy to get caught up in this world that is so divided by race and stereotypes, and that's why I think it's really important that we step back and we remember just how complex human behaviors really are. We're going to explore white people or whiteness or however you might want to see it, and this is going to resonate more with people who are American or familiar with Americans. And as we break that down and look at our 8 types of people scale, my goal is not to reinforce any bias, and you're going to find that. And so I really encourage you, take the time to listen to the video, give it a chance, have an open mind, figure out what I'm actually saying before you form an opinion, before you form a judgment. Because I think that the most important part of this series is showing us just how connected we really are. And I know you might be thinking that maybe I'm trying to do one thing or another, or trying to talk about like fragility or privilege or fear or supreme space a C. You get it, right? But I'm really only doing it because the 8 types of black people is actually the origins for all of this and what made me create this scale in the first place. And I'll kind of explain that in the next video. But I realized that I should probably not just do that video as like the only video I do about race. So I figured we would start with white people. Okay. Good. And I want to remind people, especially nowadays, those who have been chronically online for many, many years, of the white people that they've known in their life that have actually been pretty cool. I say this because I've even noticed some of my white friends, like on Facebook and people in groups that I'm a part of, apologizing on behalf of all white people, kind of like, I know we're, and then they'll say something insulting or, demeaning or whatever. And it's just kind of like, man, that's new. When I was growing up, that wasn't really a thing. And so I know that there is a lot going on. I just want everyone to take a second and consider a point that I think is really valid, but often ignored nowadays. All right. So in each of our 8 types of people videos, we try to identify a well-known individual wherever possible, as well as like a real life example to help you kind of jog your memory. So let's get started here. We're going to first look at our angel. The angel is someone who really doesn't have a lot of peers. This is a small group of people in any group. And just like any group, white people probably have maybe 5% are just amazing, perfect, ideal role models. And someone that came to mind who I've learned a little bit more about over the years was Dolly Parton. People know her for having like a warm personality, but she also has this commitment to philanthropy. She seems to really care about people. She's really inspired a lot of people through her different literacy initiatives and support for charitable causes. She just embodies moral goodness and positivity, and she serves as a role model for kindness and community service to a lot of people. But not everybody is going to know who Dolly Parton is or care about who that is. Especially, we're not all going to experience a Dolly Parton in our life, but we can experience an angel. I think someone that a lot of us can identify with as being really sweet and really kind is like that old nice neighbor lady or the grandmother that kind of embraced you. There's a lot of good energy surrounding those people, and it doesn't really matter what race they are. They're just great. We can think about the grandmother who always offers a listening ear and great advice, who volunteers at a soup kitchen and prays for people and just wants to see everybody do well. This person really embodies kindness and moral integrity. And not everybody has the luxury, the benefit of having a great grandmother, but someone that comes to my mind when I think about just a really nice person, I don't necessarily think about her as like a nice white lady, but I know that because of their story, that's often brought up that this, she happens to be white and the guy happens to be black. If you remember Wanda Dench and Jamal Hinton, it's been almost 10 years now that they spend their Thanksgivings together. It's really cool. The philanthropist or the doer, we have a little bit of a larger percentage of people doing this, but still, it's not everybody. And it could be for a variety of reasons. Some people are philanthropists because they've got the money to do it. Some people make it a part of their life's purpose and their mission, and others simply give whether they can or not. But someone that a lot of people know and really have benefited from their work is Andrew Carnegie, or is it Andrew Carnegie? I've heard people say Carnegie, and I'm always like, is that a thing? Anyways, this person was in steel, all right? He became one of the richest men in history. He dedicated so much of his fortune to his philanthropic efforts, whether it's funding libraries, which I'm a huge proponent of, education and scientific research. It's just that he believed in the importance of giving back, and he exemplified the proactive nature of this type of person, this philanthropist. That's why I think they are the doer, because they step out. And someone you might think of in your life is the community organizer, Mark. Mark is dedicated, and he spends his weekends coordinating food drives and mentorships for at-risk youth. Mark is the type of person that believes in grassroots change and is always ready to roll up his sleeves to help people that are in need. This is the kind of person that I feel like a few of us have probably met. I worked with some nonprofits in the past, and so I know this kind of character in people. The interesting thing about doing the 8 types of people is being able to find someone who hasn't been canceled. And that's not a joke. That's really serious. Jane Goodall is someone who I always thought of as, I guess, a really good person, right? That's the way that she was always presented. But I found out in my research that she's actually bad now. But there was a time where we would look at Jane Goodall as someone who brought hope to the world. She's a primatologist and a conservationist. And back in the day, she brought about this really hopeful vision for the future of wildlife and the environment. And her work emphasized the potential for positive change through education and awareness. And thanks to her, a lot of people were inspired to protect the planet. Now, people can argue about what she actually did or not, but at the time, people did look at this person and say, hey, I'm inspired. Whether they actually got up or did anything is kind of the issue. But there is a type of person that a lot of us are familiar with that if you're lucky enough, you have a bunch of these. And if you never did experience it, that stinks. But I bet you there'll be a lot of people who can say, no, I know exactly what you're talking about when I say, have you ever met a teacher that just really seemed to like their job? A teacher who actually cared? A teacher who even, you might have thought didn't like you. And then it turns out they did the whole time? That you were like their favorite student or something? That whole time they were really pushing you to reach new heights and to achieve more? Think about, like, this is Mary Jo. She's the optimistic teacher. She's a middle school teacher, which is like the hardest grades to teach. You guys know that. She's just known for her infectious positivity, and she can just do anything. Nothing really gets to her. She encourages her students to dream big. She seeks innovative ways to inspire them. She wants to go above and beyond because she believes the children are the future, and she just goes with that. She behaves as if education can really change lives and uplift communities, and she's probably the reason why a lot of other people decided to become teachers even now. Another type of person is the ally or the unifier. When I did some research, this person came up. Do I know if this person is really good or bad or who likes them or not? I'm not a part of the zeitgeist enough to know if they are, but this person seemed to be pretty highly recommended by the general mass media and Google searches. This person, Tim Wise, is known to be a very prominent anti-racist individual. That's like his thing. He's an educator, he's an author, he uses his platform to advocate for racial justice. He works alongside marginalized communities. He strives to dismantle systematic inequality and promote inclusivity. He's known for it. He's done it for a long time. This is somebody who we would look at and say they're absolutely an ally. I think that this is the type of person that we can really hurt, but also kind of gets it. It's like if we say something that is not really the most kind of, and speaking in generalities about white people, it's like, I guess, sure, some stuff can be true, but then it also isn't true for everybody. And if we've got somebody like this who, I mean, let's say he really is a great person, it's almost like we might slip up in front of someone we really care about and then have to go, oh, but you know, I don't mean you. And again, a good person is going to know, I know you don't mean me. But it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt them to be like, dang, this is what people think of me. Because at least you know me. At least you know I'm a good person. The issue is, if you look at somebody like Tim, you would not think walking down the street that he's an anti-racist, because there's a very specific type of white person that I think we would say that about. The way that we portray white people now is that, oh, they just all are. I even found an article that said that they were. So just imagine all these different groups we've talked about so far having to face all this rhetoric, and because they're good people, being able to tolerate it and accept it, and even some of them maybe agree with it, but on the other side still feel the pain of like, man, I guess I live in a time where I don't get to celebrate who I am because doing that is not okay, because all the people who were like me before, I don't know, they sucked. So now I don't get to, I guess I'll gotta take it for the team. It's like, no one should have to go through that. Isn't that what we're all trying to get rid of? Is that feeling of holding it down for the sake of tradition, or, you know, paying for the sins of people we never even met before and all this different stuff. It's like, I don't know. I got really weird about becoming the oppressor. It's so a lot. It's so nuanced. It's so, you really have to finesse your way around racial topics now. I wonder if this video is even going to make it on YouTube. All right. Anyways, let's get back into this. So if we have somebody like Tim Wise who does all these things, many of us have met that social justice advocate that really cares. And it's almost like, wow, Danny Tanner type. You just care. So we can think about, this is Yanni, and Yanni is a passionate advocate for social justice, often attending rallies and working to promote inclusivity in his workplace. And he listens to the concerns of marginalized voices, and he strives to create dialogue and understanding among diverse groups. Yanni is the epitome of the ally, the advocate. You can kind of tell that this person's life, it revolves around that cause because they can't help but care. And there's something about them when you meet them where you just know. And I think that is the difference between the rest, because I really think the only dark person we can see that's truly just bad is that devil type that we are going to talk about every time we do the 8 types of people. But I think it's easy to look at anyone beyond the ally and make the assumption that they are bad, that if they're not the type of person that you would automatically look at and say, I want them around, it's kind of unfair. And I think that there is a certain type of look in every race, every culture, every group that's like, they're the bad boys, they're the bad girls. And we're going to kind of dive into that side of whiteness and that white presentation. Someone that gets a lot of respect for who they've been is Steve Jobs. What Steve Jobs did for computing, his innovative approach to technology, he was known to defy conventional norms. Because of him being an independent thinker and this willingness to challenge the status quo, the revolutionary changes that happened in the tech industry, because he chose to be this just open kind of weirdo, it really demonstrated the power of individualism. And I think it encouraged a lot more people to step into that lone wolf or maverick role. I think this is a more defined type of person, where in the past they may have just been defined by being on their own. Now we have somebody who, in that quietness, they create. And so we can think about it like Emma. Emma is an artist, right? An independent artist. She's free-spirited. She thrives on her individuality. She shuns conventional paths. She chooses to create thought-provoking art that challenges societal norms. We've met people like this, whether they're an artist like a painter or an artist like a musician, or even if they are creating new ideas, whatever it might be. Like Emma, they seem detached from the group and from group dynamics in general, yet their work really does inspire others to think differently, which is still important to the group. We need these free thinkers. We need people like this. I think that having the person who's going to think outside the box go away and take the path less traveled is a normal part of life. And these are often the people who, they may not be allies, but they're one step off of being allies. And I think that a lot of people outside of white standard American culture just vibe very well with those lone wolves and those mavericks, because usually the standard and the big groups, the popular groups that the lone wolf is avoiding, they're going to be on the other side of this. And so don't necessarily look at someone who's in this position and think, oh, they must be somebody bad or that they're trying to hurt you. No, I think it's just they're not the standard of what you would come to expect from being white. And yet that is who they are. That's a part of their culture, part of their upbringing. And it's just, it is just who they are, especially in America. It can be hard to get away from being very standard white American. I think that the cynic or the downer, this is where it gets a little bit challenging for me to find someone, because I just don't really know enough about popular culture. But I found this person, Chris Hedges. This person is a journalist, a critic of modern society. And I think that that's a really good good title for somebody that is the cynic in our 8 types of people. When I looked up this person and I saw all the titles of the videos of some of the things that they've discussed over time, I was like, oh, okay, I see. This person definitely has a lot of opinions. And I think that by expressing the skepticism about like the effectiveness of, let's say, social movements, we're talking about that on the other side of this. And now this person comes in and they have this critical perspective and it's like, whoa. But I think that can challenge others to confront uncomfortable truths about social issues, societal issues. And though this cynicism that we get from this person can discourage action, I think that there's still people who are going to benefit from seeing the other side or thinking about things. In fact, this is why I always bring up that the cynic would make a great risk manager. What is really great for making movements more effective is having someone come in and say, oh, you guys aren't doing anything. Look at that, look at that, look at that. And you being able to say, oh, thanks for pinpointing everything I need to do now. Like now I can go through and I can focus on these areas and make the change. So maybe the approach this person takes, I've never heard of them, so they might be a complete jerk. Maybe they're not. Maybe that it's just that the way they say it is messed up or whatever it is. But I know that hearing someone speak that way can be really discouraging. And I can only imagine, depending on what like political party this person would be and all that, like it's very easy now for people to completely dunk on white people, white men especially. And so, I wonder, as long as he's on the right side, then everything's fine, right? But if he's not, then sheesh, I feel bad for this dude. Now, if he's a complete piece of crap, do I? I guess not, right? But if he's not, and he just has a difference of opinion, people don't really respect that nowadays. And so it's very interesting to see that there are going to be some people, even in white spaces, that are looked down on and mistreated simply because they have a difference of opinion or even a different way of expressing themselves. I think about, let's say, an analyst, right? A skeptical analyst who works with you in your finance department. He expresses doubts about the effectiveness of corporate social responsibility efforts, and he's very critical, and that perspective can bring valuable insight sometimes, but a lot of people feel demoralized by the things that he says. Everybody knows that Bob is going to have a frown for them when Bob comes up, right? But at the same time, why isn't Bob fired? Because Bob is really good at what he does, and that might just be part of his personality. Does that make Bob a bad person? Maybe only at work, where Bob's being the analyst. Now let's talk a little bit about the con. There's something that I think about the cons and the cheaters and the dark sides of every group, where that is something you will see amongst the different races and classes and cultures and all of that. Everybody has their people that they protect. Every family has a con or a criminal or something, and it's really rare that anybody is going to turn that person in, unless it's like they think they're going to get in trouble or something like that. But a lot of times it's just, though, that's just how they roll. And so there's people in these people's lives who know these people are scammers and know these people are liars and cheats and all these different things. And it's just kind of like, yeah, when you think about someone like Bernie Madoff, he was the chairman of the NASDAQ stock exchange at one point. Like that's crazy. The largest Ponzi scheme in history under all these people's noses, $65 billion. And he wasn't caught until, way closer to his death than when he started doing it all. So this guy orchestrates the largest Ponzi scheme in history. He exploited trust. He manipulated investors for personal gain, all under the noses of people. But all of this is one man's decision to be greedy and to betray the people around him. And so even if we do look at all the white people who happen to have done bad things that are cons, not necessarily devils, but maybe they did it for financial purposes and financial gain, most of the time they find a way to justify what they're doing. And because there's this almost like this smoothness to it, a lot of times some of the things people complain about is by the time someone who has this much money flowing in and out and all that, and not only are they not able to repay the people that they've taken things from, but you really don't know where a lot of that money went. And you can't take away decades of living well and taking advantage of people, and it's kind of crazy, right? And so you can think about it like, hey, have you ever met somebody who kind of scammed you? And you know they scammed you. You know they did you wrong. thing. Have you ever met a salesperson who's like, yeah, these are absolutely Prada. All of this is 100% real. We just happen to be having a sale right now. Look, this is Crystal. She's a charismatic salesperson. She can charm any client, but she exaggerates. She wants you to think that this is going to be more beneficial to your life because she wants to make a sale. She's prioritizing her commissions over honesty. She contributes to a sense of mistrust among her peers, amongst her customers. Grace, what are you saying? I think you know what I'm saying. Do you guys remember that Wells Fargo scam where like the employees were signing people up for different... I happen to know the person who knows the person who started the whistleblowing process. They just settled that case, right? But I remember hearing about this 10 years ago, and everybody in there knew that that's what they were doing. I've worked for companies for sales jobs and things like that where I couldn't do it. I guess I'm a snitch. I don't do corporate stuff like that. I don't like that stuff. Don't be taking advantage of people. And yet everybody in there, especially the people who were, because a lot of those places are like temporary jobs, you know, stuff like that. They got to figure out who they can trust on the inside. A lot of the people who are in there, they could be the nicest people. Imagine going into a place where you know there's a lot of scam type stuff going on, but then you meet some of the, like, not everybody, but let's say 5%, right? 5 people out of the 100 employees that work there are really, really nice. And you're just thinking, man, these people are so cool. And then 2 weeks later, you realize I am working for a giant scam machine. How nice are those people really? Well, they probably really are nice people. But at that place, they'll do what they got to do. It's up to us to decide whether or not someone's decision to do something like that actually makes them a bad person or not. If Crystal sells me sunglasses, lies to me because that's what everybody's always done at Crystal's sunglass shop. She didn't start the process. That's just what they told her to do. And she knows that this is the only way she's going to make any money because her boss has made it almost impossible for her to make a commission. She's going to do what she's got to do. So this is one of those situations where we also have to make sure that if our judgments about a certain type of person are coming from experiences like that, it's never okay to make a generalization. It's never okay to stereotype, but you can't deny someone's experiences, right? You can't say, hey, who cares about your trauma? Who cares who hurt you? Who cares who did what? You can't do that. But it is up to us as individuals to say, let me just make sure that that wasn't a bad person or a bad group of people or a bad company, that I'm applying this label, this generalization to every single person that I might meet in the future who could be really good people or cool people or a friend or a future family member. We've reached a point where we're letting the situations that we know are kind of built into our society become our reality. And the more we lean in and say, fine, if that's how it looks, if that's who you think I am, if that's what you think it is, the more we lean into that, the worse things are going to get. Finally, let's talk about the devil. And I don't know if you know who I'm going to talk about here, but I think that there's one guy in particular that pretty much everybody says is the worst white guy ever. And no, it's no, I'm talking about Hitler. Yeah, it's Hitler. So here's the thing. This person was the architect of the Holocaust, something that most Americans will learn about in school. The instigator of World War II. This guy really epitomizes malevolence. Like, this is, we know this name. We know his action caused immense suffering and destruction. And I think what we've forgotten, though, that his name is taught, it's meant to be a reminder of the dangers of unchecked hatred and intolerance. It's just not the truth that all white people are the devil. In fact, most of us, even if we've met a cop who was kind of a jerk, they probably weren't the devil, especially if we were doing something wrong. I'm talking about just driving down the street and you got a speeding ticket and that's it. I'm not talking about the other stuff. We'll talk about that in a different video. But most of us who just had a normal experience with a cop, like, hey, hello, ticket. Thanks for your license and registration. Now it's over. Bye-bye. Some of the cops are just dicks because they're probably dicks. Will every single cop that's a dick hurt somebody? I would hope not, because I think it'd be a lot worse than it is now. So it's like, it just makes it really hard to ever see hope for our country or really for the world, because the world really follows America. If we have somebody like Hitler and then we have somebody, pretty much no one, there's nobody who's ever been that bad. There's nobody who's ever gotten that far. We won't let them. We don't let devils run wild anymore. And so it's just really important for us to kind of think about things. I want you to consider this. Imagine that boss, your worst boss ever, the devil, power hungry boss, the ruthless manager. They reveled in controlling you, undermine your efforts, and they just fostered a really toxic work environment. It was the worst place you ever worked. Everybody hated it. They didn't care about anybody's well-being. They embodied cruelty and selfishness. They were the devil in a manager's body. What's so weird about the 8 types of people is that guy or gal or whoever that was, that fucker, they could just go home and be an angel. They could be the salvation of their family. hardworking James. And it's just so gross to think about it, that in all reality, we really don't get a chance to get to know just how dark some people are. And then even if we do, they may not be that person everywhere they go. And out of that situation, what if, as much as it sucks to think about it like that, what if the dude was just like going through hell? I once had a boss that sucked. I mean, honestly, probably was my worst boss. He didn't yell and stuff like that, but he was just the undermining and the purposely, like, almost like childishly setting people up for failure and stuff. It was a sales job. He would like take away your leads and you couldn't work. It was crazy. But then later we found out he had a pretty significant disease. Something was going on. And I don't look back at my time and think, oh, it was cool how he treated me. But I also don't base my entire understanding of a large group of people on him. So I think that this is something we've got to work on, not letting the things that we've seen and the experiences that we've had with people who really do deserve kind of to be punched in the face, like not allowing that to ruin the potential that we have to make great friends, to listen to awesome music, or I don't know, whatever the fuck it's going to be that matters to you moving forward. Check out the 8 Types of People Origins. That can give you a full breakdown of the 8 types of people in a vacuum. And you can kind of say, well, what is an angel? What is a maverick? Walk me through this. I just appreciate you for joining me on this exploration of the 8 types of white people. Obviously, this list did not really break down and show you every type of white person that there is, but I think having an understanding of the categories and having the reminder that most people in general are not evil. Most people, especially in America, are just trying to make it. And most white people are not at the top. The 1% might be mostly white, but that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of white people that are homeless, in poverty. We're not going to talk about privileges and all that. Y'all ain't got to argue with me about that. I'm not trying to argue with you about that stuff. I'm just saying some of the stuff has been taken really, really far. It's kind of like a pendulum is swinging the other direction, and it'll probably balance out here soon. I think that the younger generation is going to handle that because they're all really cool with each other, which is dope. I think there's a lot less likelihood of Gen Alpha just being overtly racist to each other or any of the stuff that we're dealing with now since 2020. I just don't think that we're going to deal with that once their generation is our age. But that's going to be 20, maybe 30 years before they reach their maturity, and God only knows what new problems are going to spring up. The last thing we need is to still be fucking worried about skin tone. Do you understand the end of this message? It wasn't to say that there's 8 types of white people, because there are, but there aren't. There's a lot of different types of white people, and some of them suck and some of them are great. That's it, period. It's your job to decide if you want to let, especially living in America, the majority of the people that you're going to see on a given daily basis can piss you off just by existing. Because I don't know about you, I'm not trying to have that level of stress in my life. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine waking up and deciding that you're just done with white people and then you live in America? Where you finna go? So eventually you'll get to know me. You'll understand I'm not speaking from any place of any political ideology or blah, blah, blah. I don't do all that stuff. I genuinely just care about people being cool with each other, and let's break bread. Let's have a drink, have a smoke. What do you do? Like, let's just sit down and talk to each other. And I know somebody said, hold on, let me find it. Let me tell you what he said. Somebody said, Free and Critical Thinker 4431 said, I would like to hope this is an AI program. As if not, then damn. This is so packed with insanely childish and idealistic ideals with plenty of myths and this is what I want the world to be BS. If you're taking anything from this, well, best of luck. And I responded, beep, boop, beep, boop, 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 beep. I think that you need to understand that I am not who you think I am. I'm definitely not an AI program. Could an AI program do this? I didn't actually do anything. I just wanted to say that. But I'm not one. And so I hope that even if you don't like my content, that you remember that there's going to be somebody who says something like this. Jacoby 1651 said, underrated video. This is high quality production. Keep up the good work. 22 views, should be 22K. And what was really amazing is I woke up to that comment that morning and saw that my video had almost 1,000 views. I really care about people, and I'm going to listen to people like Jacoby or Jacob E or Jacob B, or you get it, right? And I'm going to do my best to just help all of us think about things in a new way. And I hope that's okay with you. If you're interested in more of that, come subscribe, hang out, join us. And if not, That's okay too. I don't blame you. Some of the stuff I'm going to talk about might make you uncomfortable. And then to turn around and talk about life being Taco Bell or why you should become a substitute teacher, I get it. It might be confusing living in my brain. Can you imagine what it's like to be me? So do your thing, friend. But for those of you who want to do your thug dizzle around here, thank you so much for clicking the subscribe button, because that is the button that allows me to grace your space as often as I want, whenever I'd like. Like maybe I'll put out another video tomorrow. I don't know. Probably not, but if I do, I hope you watch it. All right, well, I'm gonna get out of here, friends. I hope that you're having a nice one. Peace. Beep boop beep 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 boop beep. Okay, bye.